Right now, one of the most unexpected scenarios in recent years is beginning to take shape in the technology market. According to insiders and analysts, Apple is preparing not just to release its first foldable iPhone, the company may be preparing an entire lineup of fold devices. And one of the most ambitious products in this lineup could be the first iPad Fold in history. If these leaks are confirmed, this will not just be a new gadget, it could become a real shock for the industry. Because right now the foldable device market is effectively controlled by companies like Samsung and Huawei, which have been developing foldable smartphones for several years. But at the same time, a fully fledged foldable tablet that looks like a finished product still does not exist. And this is exactly where Apple could make its signature move, not catching up with the market, but immediately jumping ahead of it. Because according to available data, the iPad Fold is not just an enlarged foldable smartphone, it is a completely different class of device. According to preliminary information, the device may feature a display of approximately 13 to 15 inches when unfolded, which is already at the level of a laptop, while remaining compact and portable when folded. And the key point here is that Apple will most likely rely on a completely new type of display, without a visible crease. This is one of the main problems of all current foldable devices, as even flagship models from Samsung still have a noticeable crease, while Apple, according to rumors, does not want to release a product until it can fully solve this issue. And if it succeeds, this will become one of its main advantages at launch. But even more interesting is how Apple may implement the usage scenario of such a device, because the iPad Fold could potentially replace several devices at once, including a tablet, a laptop, and even partially a workstation. Imagine a device that in its folded state is used as a classic iPad. You can hold it in your hands, consume content, work with applications, but once you unfold it, you get a huge screen on which you can work in multiple applications simultaneously, edit videos, work on documents, or even use a full desktop-like interface. And this is where iPadOS comes into play, as Apple has been gradually transforming it into a more powerful and flexible system over the past few years, adding multitasking features, improving window management, and introducing elements that bring it closer to macOS. And the iPad Fold could become the device for which all of this was originally designed. If we go even deeper, it becomes clear that Apple may completely rethink the way users interact with the device. For example, in the folded state, one part of the screen could function as an interactive keyboard with adaptive feedback, while in the unfolded state, the user gets a full-fledged workspace without limitations. There is also discussion about the use of a new generation stylus, as Apple Pencil may gain additional features specifically tailored for a large foldable display, including more precise graphics work, new tools for designers, and even support for advanced scenarios in 3D. Hardware is also a separate topic, as such a device will most likely receive one of the most powerful Apple Silicon chips, possibly at the level of Apple M3 or an even more advanced version, which automatically makes the iPad Fold not just a tablet, but a full-fledged work tool capable of competing with laptops. And this already changes the very philosophy of the device, because if earlier the iPad was perceived as a complement to the Mac, now it may become its replacement, especially for users who value mobility and versatility. It is also important to understand that Apple may introduce new camera usage formats. For example, the front camera could be embedded under the display, allowing the screen to remain completely seamless without cutouts, while the main camera could be used not only for shooting but also for spatial scanning, augmented reality applications, and the creation of 3D content. Another important point is battery life. A large foldable display requires a serious battery, and here Apple will most likely use a distributed battery system built into both halves of the device, which will allow it to maintain weight balance and ensure stable operation throughout the entire day. It is also possible that new materials will be used, such as reinforced glass or hybrid composites that are both durable and flexible, which is critically important for foldable devices, because durability is one of the key factors that has so far held back their mass adoption. But the most interesting part begins when you look at this device from the perspective of the ecosystem, because the iPad Fold could become the central element of the entire Apple ecosystem, interacting with the iPhone, Mac, Apple Watch, and other devices to create a unified digital space. For example, you could start working on a Mac, continue on the iPad Fold in its unfolded state, and then quickly switch to an iPhone. And although this is already partially implemented, with the arrival of such a device, the process could become completely seamless. And this is exactly where Apple may gain a huge advantage, because competitors can build good devices, but replicating Apple's ecosystem is much more difficult. If we talk about the impact on the industry, the scenario could be very interesting, because the arrival of the iPad Fold may create an entirely new category of devices, which is neither a smartphone nor a tablet in the traditional sense, but a hybrid that combines multiple formats at once. And if Apple truly sets a quality standard in this segment, other companies will be forced to adapt, as Samsung and Huawei will most likely accelerate the development of their own equivalents. But catching up with Apple will not be easy, especially if it delivers a crease-free solution with perfectly optimized software. This could also impact the laptop market, because if the iPad Fold can replace part of the usage scenarios of a MacBook, it may change the structure of sales and force users to rethink their habits. Another important point is price, as such a device will most likely be very expensive, possibly even more expensive than top MacBook models. But Apple has repeatedly shown that users are willing to pay for innovation if it truly feels meaningful. As a result, we get a very interesting picture where Apple may enter the foldable device market, not with just one product but with an entire strategy, with the iPhone Fold becoming the first step, but the iPad Fold potentially becoming the device that changes the rules of the game. And if all of this really happens, we may witness the beginning of a new era, an era in which the boundaries between devices are finally blurred, where one device replaces several at once, and where form factor no longer limits user capabilities. And then the main question will no longer be whether you need a foldable tablet, but whether you are ready to switch to a completely new format of interaction with technology. And if you look even deeper, it becomes obvious that Apple may go beyond conventional hardware and focus on artificial intelligence as a key part of this device, because a large foldable screen opens up entirely new scenarios for working with AI. Imagine that the iPad Fold in its unfolded state becomes not just a display, but a full-fledged working environment where artificial intelligence assists you in real time, automatically arranging windows, suggesting actions, analyzing content, and even anticipating what you are going to do next. And here Apple could leverage its developments in local AI, emphasizing privacy and speed without constant internet connectivity, which could become another strong differentiator from competitors, because most modern AI solutions rely on the cloud, while Apple could offer a faster and more secure approach directly on the device. And if all of this comes together in a single product, the iPad Fold could become not just another step forward, but the device after which the market will no longer be able to go back.